Hello and welcome to A Product of Proverbs. This is your host Joshua Fowler, here with my co-host and dad Reverend Roy Fowler, and we're here for what you guys love best, a candid conversation between father and son in two different perspectives on life and the issues going on in the world today. So we started off this season talking about education, and we had another episode lined up that was along the lines of education, but recently we had another life event happen, the loss of Congressman John Lewis. John Lewis was an impactful civil rights leader and really embodied a lot of the things that we stand for and believe in today. He was really one that pushed the needle, that if you know, you know. They write about Rosa and Dr. King, but this was another icon. So we just kind of want to take this moment to remember John Lewis and then talk about his fight. So today's episode is going to be titled Isms, because while John Lewis was a civil rights leader, John Lewis also was a humanitarian. Mm-hmm. He was for all people. So while racism is something that separates us, we also have classism. Classism, to me, being even more dangerous, more impactful than racism. And racism really wouldn't be able to exist without classism. But we're going to talk about all this throughout this episode. All right, so what's going on, Dad?
Not a lot, Josh. How about you?
Man,
It's just so much that's happened, really. You don't know what to say because we're in this and you see a lot of things that's been going on. They've always been happening, but we see it more now, I guess, because we've had more time to sit still and observe what was happening on the news, and everything is being shown to us by these, smartphones taking the videos, and media is just all out there for us, and we actually see all of these things happening. That has always been happening, but it's more real to us now because we see it. And yes, John Lewis, he was an icon. He was legendary. I mean, he spent his life serving others and serving humanity. And it's just right. And the thing about it, he didn't want anything that wasn't, just human rights. Period. No special interest, no special service. Just treat me right. Not special, just right. And yeah, there's a lot of things. Isms is your topic this week. And it's a lot of things that separates us. When you listed that and mentioned that, and I see racism and classism, Black Lives Matter, and all of these things that we're going to talk about. These things just shouldn't separate people, just basic human rights and dignity. These things shouldn't be, but they are. Now, you got racism down as your first thing.
Oh, God.
Where do you start?
I hate talking about racism because you already know my perspective. It's one of those things that is ingrained hatred. Hatred of self, for me to be. Actually, I know where to start. I recently read something interesting, and it was about race and nationality, and talking about how race strips your nationality. So when you say race, you say black and white. When you say race, you don't say I'm German. You don't say that my people were Irish. You don't say that I'm Algerian. You don't say that my people are Ugandan. You say I'm black or I'm white. Just think some people might even take it a step further and just say African or European or South American. But when you say race, you really make a big pot. It takes away a nationality, because if you have a nationality, that's your nation, that's your people. You have a certain pride and self-respect in that. And when you have a nation and a nationality and a people, you understand and respect other people's love for their nation and their people. So just imagine like the World Cup or soccer fans. Soccer fans really aren't just going to be killing each other in the street because their team loses. You understand your passion. That fan loves their team. I love my team. It's the game, but we have a love for the game because of our nationality, our country that we love. America has the biggest problem because we don't do nationality. African Americans, black people, we don't have a nation. We don't have a nationality. We can say American, but they put a hyphen in ours. We're not even American, we're African American. And then racist white people, or the majority of white people that I've encountered that have been racist, don't have a nationality either. They once attempted to have a nation by succession from the United States of America, and that was, don't start laughing, this is their history. That was quickly ended. They just put an abrupt stop to that, and from there, their culture, their nationality of owning slaves and free enterprise and just a ridiculous amount of wealth was kind of stripped of them. And then they became poor and not really as well respected, and other people from other places came to rise up above them. So racists are really just kind of mad because they don't have nothing to be proud of. They don't have a nation, a nationality. They don't have this thing to hold dear to them, so they're angry at people that do. They're angry at people that seem like they do enjoy and appreciate who they are and how they are and where they came from. You just think to a racist, they don't really that much enjoy the Confederate and civil rights. They don't want to relive that defeat. But why do black people get to relive getting free from slavery? Why do we get to enjoy when we get all these new things, but they just got things taken from them? So that's where I feel like their angry racism comes into play at. And so when I take that approach to it, I either just ignore them or kind of just laugh at them and keep it pushing because sucks to suck. That's where I sit at racism now. It's a lot to digest. But.
Yeah, and it really makes sense. It makes a lot of sense because that's what normally happens. We hate because we feel something's been taken from us or kept from us. And that's kind of why you hate. And that's why you find more people getting angry and they're rising up when we're talking about, Black Lives Matter and these things that are being brought to the front now. You find people that are fighting against it in the street because they feel like we keep getting stuff and then they're not. I understand that. I can see that.
That's how I think about it. I just look at what would someone's motive be? Why would you be racist? What do you have to gain from this?
And then when you look at it based on what you just shared, you can kind of understand it better because the question is, why do you hate people for no reason? Well, you gave a reason.
Mm-hmm. And you don't even know it because your great-granddad was the one that was wronged in his eyes by not being able to have free labor and having to lose everything he gained because he kept from others. He taught that hatred to your granddad, who taught that hatred to your dad, who taught it to you, and you're going to teach it to your kid. And maybe it's, I don't know, it makes sense. It just makes sense to me.
That makes sense when you look at it from the fact that, okay, it's hard for me to celebrate you getting when all I can think about is what I lost. Not looking at it from the perspective of what was taken from us before then. People seem to not recognize that or understand that, what's been taken from people. So they don't really see the pain of our struggle. They just see the pain of their struggle from our overcoming that. And it breeds in them contempt And that's why you find so much more hostility even now, based on what we're seeing and people agreeing with us, our blacks, on the fact that they have been treated unjustly, that there is inequality, that there is systemic racism. They're having a hard time digesting that. So I can see that. Don't mean that it's right, but I can still see it. Don't mean that it's justified. Hate is never justified, but I can see it. I can justify it in my own mind and heart, but that don't make it right.
So that's the big racism one, is it's just a lot of confusion that came from the American model, the American way of life, and now we're just in this place of misunderstanding.
I don't see no out because I understand exactly what you're saying and I can see that, but it's hard for others to see that. If I'm already hating you because you're black and I'm white and I see that you're wanting this. I was watching the news the other day and there was this lady was just bashing the Black Lives Matter people in the street, saying, you getting this, y'all getting this, you getting this, we giving y'all that, y'all gotten this, and we ain't getting nothing, you get everything. And to me that was like real silly, but after hearing you say what you said about it, I can see why they would feel that way and see that they do feel that way. And it's hard to get people to see the other side when they're already in that vein. It's hard to reason with people when they're like that. So I don't see an out.
It would be a better chance of an out if it wasn't for the classism too. Because like racism's one thing and it's not a joke, but it's stupid. When you think about it, there's no reason behind it. There's no logical explanation for it. To me, if that's something stupid, I can't spend too much time worrying about something. That's a problem. It's an unsolvable problem because the people that are the problem don't want to solve it. So I don't think about that. But when people are aware of the classism issue, then I think everyone's going to want to solve that because classism is something that affects us all. Even in the fact of when you're middle class, let's say that you go from dirt poor to making it middle class, there's still the upper middle class. Mm-hmm. And then when you're rich, how rich are you? Are you, if you didn't work for 2 years, you would be poor rich? Or are you could not work for 10 years rich? Are you shell company rich? Or are you side business rich? Like, there's levels to it, and those levels kind of keep you oppressed the same way that racism does, if not more. Just because economics and your standing and really the money you have really kind of dictates your opportunity. As bad as it is, how people like you, because you get opportunities from people liking you, and people like you because of what you have, what status, you do, who you are, how you are. People like you because of your status, and then you kind of get stuck in your class. If you can't afford entry into the game, you can't play. Me and Matthew made that analogy earlier because I said you got to pay to play. We were talking about exotic car hacks, so people that'll lease cars or buy cars with the intention to continue to flip cars, and you might even make a profit. So I go and I want to buy this Audi R8. It cost $179,000. I get a deal on it. I get it for $170,000. So I pay $170,000. I get the car. I drive it for 2-3 months. I find somebody that'll buy it from me for $160,000. So I only paid $10,000 to have this car for this long. And that's the hack is, okay, well, I had the car for 10 months. I paid $1,000 a month. That's not that bad compared to paying $200,000 for the car. And then you think of, okay, well, what if I sell it to someone over market value? I only paid $6,000 for 10 months owning this car. But as we were saying, you gotta pay to play. So if I can't walk into the Audi dealership and get this car for $170,000, it don't matter if I got $1,000 a month for 6 months to have the car. You gotta be able to get in the door. that's kind of how classism works, is you have to have certain things to make it certain levels. You have to have a certain credit score. To get a certain credit score, you have to be able to get credit. To be able to get credit, you have to have certain income. To have certain income, you have to have certain education. To have certain, it's so many different factors, and they can ice you out of certain opportunities based on certain factors. That's how classism works, is they always have a criteria list that is ever changing. You might meet 3 out of 4, and to get into that next level or that next class, you may need 4 out of 4. They may change the list and you need 10 now. You never know, because the whole thing is to keep you in whatever class you're in. It's really hard to jump classes. There aren't many people that truly jump classes and jump far, like 2-3 classes up. You don't find a lot of people that really grew up with nothing and then make it super rich.
And then even when you look at that, even when you've got money, then you're still separated. Old money, new money.
Mm-hmm.
And old money carry more clout than new money. So you've got that in life, and I guess we've always had that in life. And I guess we're going to always have that in life. Just as simple as that, okay? We've got the same money, yeah, but mine is generational. So I come with more pedigree than you. So we're looked at different, even though we've got the same money.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, it's a class thing, and you're just in it, and they make sure that they can keep you in it. So it's another form of
oppression.
Yeah, something to divide.
So you got to think that we're going to fight this racism fight, and if we eventually get them to say, okay, we're going to drop race, we're not going to make it a big deal, we're not going to push the line, we're going to let y'all be humans and treat y'all like humans and not just murder y'all like game. But let's say that we get to that point. Now we got to fight the class battle. Now we got to fight, okay, well, we get the rights and we get this, but where's the money at? Can we get money for our schools? We equal rights and we humans. Are we fighting the education reform battle, or are we fighting the racism battle? It's so many different things, and all of these battles really lead to that final point of classism. It all really leads to, well, how are they able to do these racist things? Classism. How are they able to prevent you from education? Classism. How are they able to prevent you from voting? Voter suppression. Pure classism. The places where people can't get off work and have a harder time getting to the polls, they have less polls. They can't wait.
So it's really all tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all tied together. When you look at racism, classism, they're intertwined.
Mm-hmm. That's why people like John Lewis were so important, because they weren't so laser focused on that race issue that they missed the bigger picture, because he always fought for people on all fronts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All people on all fronts, fighting against big money, getting in good trouble.
Yeah, so it's more than racism, it's classism and other things. And you could just sum it up with those things that divide us, the things that divide us. That's the issue that we're dealing with, and it's just a fight that, I guess, a battle that's going to be fought until the end.
And I think it's a battle that's been fought since the beginning.
Even with that, I don't see it changing, because I don't really see people changing. Status and levels is just the way it's structured,
It's all a game. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like a game, and like I told Matthew, you got to pay to play. So if you can stack your coins enough to play, you can beat the game. But if you ever been to an arcade, you don't beat the game on your first token. You got to have a lot of tokens to sit at that game for a while before you beat it, before you get that high score.
Takes skill.
It takes skill, it takes a little bit of luck, and it takes coins. That's what it comes down to, is you can't play that game with no coins. How many times we be at Chuck E. Cheese, we run back, can I get some more tokens?
Yeah.
That's life. Like, you gotta stack your coins and stack your chips so that you can play the game. And all the sayings allude to it. It take money to make money. That's pretty straight up. I mean, if you have money, and I can see that through little investing now. If you have $1,000 to invest, you can make a little bit of money and incrementally make money. But if $1,000 stock goes up 20%, you only get $200. If you invested $100,000, you get $20,000. How many times do you have to get 20% on your $1,000 before you get 100?
Mm-hmm.
So think about somebody and how classism works is, me and you save up a little bit of money, we go invest $10,000 and we make $1,000 a month and we think we're doing okay. There's someone else that goes and they have $10,000 to invest in each stock in our portfolio and they make $100,000 a month. That's how the game go. You got more coins, you can play longer and get a higher score.
But even if that, when you look at racism and classism, those are two things that runs interference with you getting in position to be able to play the game. See, those things are set up to keep you out of the game and to minimize your chance of being successful in the game. And you just have to persevere and work through it. And that's really all you can do. I think key is understanding the game.
Yeah.
You got to understand the game. And then you know the rules, so you know what you get.
That's why that education is so important. Because when you go through school, you learn the rules of the game. You learn from teachers that played the game and now want to teach other people how to play the game. It's one of those things where that's where you gain the knowledge, that's where you gain the information, is in that education system. And that's why that's one of their best tools in their classist and racist structure is education. You keep people away from knowledge, keep people away from knowing how to better their situation, and you don't have to worry about them bettering their situation.
Mm-hmm.
You keep people from even knowing that they can better their situation, even wanting to, because the desire is the main point. If people don't think it's that bad, then they don't want to improve it.
Right.
There's so many things, there's so many different ways, but we could go on and on for days. Like we said in the last episode, we like to wrap it up with a piece of us. Why? Who are you? Why do you feel this way? How did you come to this point? How did you come to this perspective or opinion? For me, I'm somebody that grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in Georgia. I used to love Atlanta and think that Georgia was the greatest thing on earth. And in COVID and in this last year, I realized that we are Florida Junior. For the rest of the country, who are Florida Junior. And that was a hard pill to swallow because I loved Atlanta. I found out that the Atlanta Braves owner is one of Trump's top supporters. So now I've completely deaded my Braves allegiance and I'm full-blown Dodgers fan. I used to be split life living, but now we just with the Dodgers because it's like, oh, that's our franchise. Yeah, so I'm someone that grew up in the suburb in Florida Junior. So you know the type of people around here, you know what's going on. I grew up with people with lifted pickup trucks and Confederate flags flying around. And these are the people I went to school with from kindergarten through 12. Just being around the area that not too long ago was plantations. I think that's the pill I'm swallowing, is that not too long ago, like these roads and stuff were plantations. So that's where my understanding of racism and classism come in. And then also sitting in classes, sitting in between classes, and then kind of doing my own jump of classes as I unofficially and completely on my own emancipated myself. Remember in college when I stopped taking money from y'all and asking y'all for money and just decided to live a broke life and just work and pay all my bills? I got off the cell phone plan. I paid my own car insurance. I was like, nah, I'm grown now. I got to do my grown thing. So I took a hit. I would put myself in a class that I had never been in life. I put myself in the class of people scraping up dimes for $1 McChickens. So then I got to see how banks and how people treated me and looked at me when I wasn't spending my daddy's money and when I was only my own money that I had left after bills. And I got to see what the clothes I bought were, the type of things I did, the car I drove. I got to see life when I was living the college student, working part-time, just the life. So I've also got to see jumping through the other levels and getting to where I'm at now, where it's comfortable. So I understand how people treat you in different classes. I understand how people look at you and talk to you in the different classes you may be in. And so that's kind of where my perspective on racism and classism come from. How about you?
I don't know. I just knew people were different, and I had no problem with people being different. I had no problem with the Confederate flag, the lifted trucks, as long as they respect it. You can have, and I tell people now, I have no problem with that, but when you make it about me and you, then that's different. You respect me and I respect you, and we can get along, but when you start coming at me a different way, that's the whole thing. It's about mutual respect and understanding. We all have our preferences, our likes, our dislikes, our passions, our loyalties, but we've got to treat each other with respect and with dignity, and then you can hold on to those things as long as they don't impress upon me. I've kind of walked my own way. I've never felt like I understood difference because I experienced that even in working. Early on, I was in high school in my job, and I worked in this job. I was able to get that job because my mother worked there, but there was teenage boys, and I ended up being the only black. There was one black and 4 white guys, and it was fine with me, but I saw us all working the job doing the same thing, and they want to take breaks. Well, I take a break when they take a break. They're over here goofing off. I go over there where they are. And I'll never forget, I came in one day, and the manager, because I had been out, because I used to have surgery, and I'd come back to work, and the manager said something to me. Then he said I was on somebody's list. You know what goes with that. And I said, okay. And I knew that was coming because the plant manager's son worked with us. And to me, he was just another person like I was. And he wasn't a boss of me, and I didn't let him boss me. I didn't let anybody boss me. I did my job. I've always been a good worker. But I saw that. And I said, okay, I understand. And I stayed there. And, that day, I made up in my mind that I was leaving that company. I'm not going to get fired. I quit. And I got another job. I went and I told him I quit. And he asked me, why? And, I'm not one to want to burn bridges or whatever. But I knew why I needed to quit, and he knew too. So I went to another job, and I just kept. So I saw that right off. Even when I saw that, even when I went to work at Lockheed, all of us guys was in the same class in school. I never forget. We're all in the same class doing the same thing. Lockheed was hiring. And they hired all these guys in that position that we all applied for. But when they didn't have a position for me. But they hired all those white guys. And I said, okay. And I wasn't going to go to work. And I remember my dad saying, get in the door. You'll get to the place you want to be. Get in the door. Because I wasn't going to do it. He said, okay. So I told him I would, so I did. And, ironically, within a year, I was still in the door, and they were gone. And to this day, there's none of those guys still working or has been working there in the last 10, 15 years. They were in and out, then finally they were out. But I saw that from the very beginning, and I understood it. I understand how you work in the system, understanding the system. And I've been very successful. I've been very blessed to be honest with you. But it's, but I never, there was not one time that I didn't understand how this system worked. But you just got to learn to work in the system to your advantage. And I'm glad I took the advice of my father, because it really worked out for me. So here I am, almost 40 years with never any broken time, which is unheard of.
So we've definitely had some experiences, and it just comes with the nature of where we at, that's part of it. And then also, it's life. This is America, and it's the world. It's not just this country. It's just the world we live in. More separates us and divides us than unites us. Or at least we pay attention to the stuff that separates us more than we pay attention to the things that unite us. Because I argue that we have more in common than more not in common, but that's another episode. This episode was episode 2, isms. So the isms that are oppressing us and holding us back from being our best selves, living our best lives, and having the best experience here on earth. So with that, we're going to sign off on this episode. I didn't thank you on the intro episode, but thank you, Dad, for sitting down with me.
My pleasure.
Season 2 back on the road again. I don't know how many you guys are going to be getting. We're going to record as many as we can. Not really. We're going to record as many as we want to. I'm going to edit them as fast and thoroughly as I can. We're going to get these out before these classes take up the majority of my time. And maybe even run y'all some bonus episodes throughout that with some cool NBA content. But if not, it's my show. I do what I want.
That's right.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll catch y'all on next week's episode. With that, we out.